Hi, this is Jim Tressel, Vice President of Strategic Engagement at the University of Akron. It's good to be with all the good folks from Snyder's Lance. Any group headquartered in Ohio is a Buckeye at heart, and so I'm excited to have a chance to visit with you. I know you're going to have a chance to hear from John Maxwell, who really is he's the expert in the field of leadership. I've learned a lot of what I've tried to use over the course of 38 years of college coaching and now into the higher education administrative ranks from John Maxwell and from reading. We had a chance to have him visit with our teams over the years, had a chance to just sit and visit with them over the years. And you know, in my mind, one of the great teachers to help all of us understand what leadership is all about. So most of the things that John will talk to you about in your workbook and your 5 levels of leadership and so forth, hopefully I won't be redundant in terms of what you're working on. Then on the other hand, repetition is the key to success. So if I happen to have some of the same points that I've stolen from John, you'll have to bear with me. But whenever I hear those 2 key words as I listen to the charge for today, leadership and teamwork, those in my mind are probably the 2 most important words and 2 most important areas of development that any group needs to have if they're going to reach their potential. People talk a lot about success and the varying definitions of success, but in my mind, success is all about reaching your potential, becoming as good as you can be, helping your team become as good as they can be, helping your leadership component become as good as they can be. So it's exciting having a chance to talk about leadership and to talk about teamwork. And I guess I'll start with the leadership part of it. Leadership is not a position that one might hold or rank, whether they be first string or be lieutenant colonel or be president or be vice president or supervisor or department chair or whatever. Leadership is all about one's willingness to serve others. And John Maxwell talks about it constantly in many of his writings, that leadership is not really a position. Leadership is an action that one takes. And so as we think about how can we best lead, I think we constantly have to think about how can we best serve the people in our department, best serve our customer, best serve all the people around us, serve our community. Our ability and willingness and passion to serve others is what leadership is all about. And I think that's the key point when it comes to what is a leader all about. If you think about the great leaders you've had in your life, it's probably your mom, it's probably your dad, it might be someone, your aunt or your uncle, who made a difference in your growing up or whatever. But if you think about what they did for you, they served you. They gave you the tools for you to grow. They gave you the opportunities for you to grow. They gave you all that you needed to succeed in whatever it was that you were trying to accomplish. And that's what we need to do as leaders. We had a couple quotes on our staff wall at both Youngstown State and Ohio State, and one day I'll get it up here on the wall at the University of Akron. But they're 2 real simple statements, thoughts, missions, if you will. And one was a quote by Albert Einstein. And Einstein said, "Concern for man and his fate must form the chief interest of all technical endeavors. Never forget this in the midst of your diagrams and equations." We had a lot of diagrams and equations in football. We love to draw X's and O's and circles and so forth. And I know you have a lot of equations and spreadsheets and numbers that you have to meet and all the things that you have in a business. But concern for man and his fate, concern for your customers, concern for your co-workers, concern for the people that you supervise and their future and their fate and their entire being must form the chief interest. And once we do that, once we make sure that our concern for others as a leader, our willingness to serve others, makes up our chief interest, then our diagrams and equations will work out. As Einstein said, concern for man and his fate must form the chief interest of all technical endeavors. Never forget this in the midst of your diagrams and equations. Never forget this in the midst of your business plan. Concern for the people, willingness to serve the people. The other statement we had on our staff wall constantly, and we worked hard to live up to it, was this. We used to say that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. We have to make sure that the people we're serving, the people we're leading, know that we care about them. Beyond the job they're doing for us, beyond the job they're doing for the company. In our case, it was beyond what they could do for us on the football field. We had to genuinely care about every phase of their life. We had to genuinely care about how they were doing in school, about how things were going at home, how things were going within their personal lives, their emotional lives. They had to know that we cared, and most importantly, we did have to care. We couldn't pretend to care. We couldn't pretend that we had the care for them as our number one item, but then not live that way. And so as I think about leadership, the challenge that I would give you in what leadership is all about is, of course, you've got to do all the things that good leaders do. You've got to get there before everyone else does. You've got to work harder than everyone else does. You've got to make sure that you take responsibility for all of your actions, that you're willing to have that never quit attitude, that you have that sense about you that good things are going to happen if you follow this plan. All that has to be in place, like many, many of the things that you're going to read from Dr. Maxwell's books. But in my estimation, that understanding that leadership is service, concern for your people and their fate, their future, and the genuine care you have for them, that's what leadership is all about. And I maintain if you have those in line, all of a sudden those diagrams and equations that you're asking them to execute, they'll do them well because they know you care. We always felt as soon as our young people knew that we cared about them, they were going to win more football games because they knew we were in it together and we cared beyond the game of football. Let's turn to the second topic for the day, and that's teamwork. One of the words that you folks are using a lot as you think about how you can get better and how you can reach your potential, you keep using the word trust, and that's an important part of your discussion. I think if you're going to serve, you're going to lead, you'll have a chance to build trust. If you have a chance to build trust, in my mind, you'll have a chance to build a team. Now, what's a team all about? What's the most important component a team can have? We talked constantly about various fundamentals that winning teams have, fundamentals that winning people have. They have great attitude. They have great discipline. They have great enthusiasm. They have great persistence. They have great toughness. They have great work ethic. All those things are a part of what it takes to be a good team or to be a good team member. But what do you think the most important trait is of the best team member that you can have? What do you think the number one trait is of what the best team embodies? I happen to think it's this. In fact, I came upon, I guess, how I feel about this in response to a letter I got one time. I got a letter from a Division III college football coach, and he had written to every coach who had ever won a national championship in football. And he asked all of us to write back to him on our stationery, what's the number one most important trait of that national championship team? What's the number one most important trait that those players and coaches had on those national championship teams? And so I had to think about that because, you know, there's a whole bunch of traits we had. We always had great talent. We always worked hard. We always were pretty tough. We were always pretty disciplined. Always carried good attitudes. But what was the difference between those great teams and those great individuals who had a chance to build that trust because they served and led? And it dawned on me as I thought back, and we had the good fortune of having 5 national championship teams and 4 others that played for the national championship, so 9 teams who were either 1 or 2 in the nation. And it dawned on me that those teams were the teams that were full of people who were unselfish. That it really wasn't about them. It was about the team. It wasn't about what they could get from the situation. They knew full well, and they trusted that they would be treated fairly with whatever things I think we naturally desire as humans, that they trusted that if they were unselfish and they put the team ahead of themselves, that there would be more than enough to go around for all of the teammates. And so when I wrote my letter back to that young coach, I told him, I said, you know, the common denominator of the great teams I've been around, the common denominator amongst the great leaders and the great teammates that I've been around, is that trait of selflessness, unselfishness. You know, if you could think about our society a little bit, take away any unselfish behavior, we would probably have less problems. That's the reality. Now, we're humans, and I think there's a little instinctive selfishness that we have. There are some things that we crave and we desire and we'd sure like to have and be a part of and so forth. So becoming an unselfish individual or an unselfish team takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of stepping back and saying, hey, what does the team need? What does the community need? What do the other persons that I work with need? And there takes a tremendous amount of trust to be there, because I think if we don't trust that I'll be more than satisfied with the outcome as long as everyone else gets what I can help them get, if I don't have that mentality, it's going to be harder for me to be that kind of servant leader. And so I would say to you, first and foremost, if you want to have a great team, make sure that you've got yourself surrounded with unselfish people. Because unselfish people, though passionate about success and achievement and all of the things that we like to accomplish, if I surround myself with unselfish people, as unselfish as we humans can be, then I'll have a chance to build an unselfish group. And that's a hard one. You know, there's no question about it. So many times we evaluate, well, someone else around me got something that I didn't get, or had opportunities that I didn't have, or got a break that I didn't get. And that's tough as a human being, to see if you can put that aside and keep going back and centering yourself to what is it that the team needs? What is it that I can do to serve others? And if I can keep bringing myself back to that, knowing I'm going to probably wander off that thought, because that's just the nature of us human beings. If I can keep bringing myself back to what is it I can do for the team, I really think you'll have no trouble developing that trust. If you as leaders decide you're going to serve others before you serve yourself, if you then work hard to build that trust with that unselfish, selfless team attitude, there's nothing you won't be able to accomplish. And the best part of it is this: no matter what that is that you accomplish, as long as you reach your potential, you'll feel okay about the results, because you'll feel good about the fact that you were there for others, you were concerned about man and his fate, the other human beings and their fate around you. And so to me, that's the thrill of trying to work in groups and trying to work in teams, is you know it's not a natural thing to want to be unselfish. And the fun of it is trying to see if we can all come together in a common cause to help one another, to serve one another, to be unselfish, to be selfless around one another. If we do that, we'll have a chance to reach our potential. So best wishes from all of us here at the University of Akron. We're rooting for you. I'm kind of a cracker guy. In fact, my favorite is peanut butter honey. And I'm not so much a cream cheese and chives guy. That's probably my third favorite. But the peanut butter and honey, or just the straight peanut butter, or the 4 cheese, if I remember. We've got a 4 cheese at the Lance Snyder folks. But at any rate, it's an honor to be a part of your team building, because there's nothing more fun than trying to get a group of good people to come together, do the best they possibly can. And so I thank you, and I'll be rooting for you, and you know you'll always have me as one of your best customers.